Hello and good evening! I'm RBK, and this evening I am going to talk about body image and acceptance. It was over 2 years ago that I first sent a message to Alex after I sort of woke up in the middle of the night and thought that it would be something that I wanted to talk about, something that I was happy to share. I have to confess that at the moment that feels like very much something that I should have left in the middle of the night. But I'm sure that we together will get through this. The best way I can describe what I want to talk about and to really give it a name that I give it is my queer wound. And I'm sure it's a wound that I'm not the only person who has, and that it's the wounding that comes from being different from others, and even at a very young age, knowing that I was different. And it's a very subtle wound at times because there's nothing to sort of go, oh, look at you. It's just you feel different, and that I felt different to those around me. For me, this was also compounded by the being sent to boarding school at age 7 and the sense of rejection that I felt from that. The best summary of the feeling that I can give is that a sense of grief. It was like a death experience, and feeling that your parents had died, but they had done so through choice. And at the end of each term, they come back to life again, and then at the next term, it happens again. And therefore, you get stuck in this repeated grief cycle that can never really end because they haven't actually died, they've just sent you away. And for me, that created an environment where I felt very isolated and where I didn't feel I had emotional support around me. It was that I had to get through this, no matter how. That was the task that I had. And I found that very difficult and very challenging. When at 13 I changed schools, it then turned into bullying. And the name calling of being fat, being bent, being queer was just what I had to tolerate. Sometimes it was physical, so that my food would be taken from me because I didn't need it because I was fat. And sometimes it was actual physical violence towards me. So I very quickly learnt skills to learn how to hide, to keep my head down, and to really just try and get through it as best I could, which was often just even more isolating. It was a school where sports was the prime way of success, and I was not sporty. There was a lot of machismo and bravado around it, and I just knew that I wasn't. At the time, I hadn't been through puberty, and most of the boys around me had. So I found that very difficult. Indeed, one of the most humiliating experiences of my life was the school medical, where we came into the waiting room and had to do a urine sample, and some of the boys were laughing because one of the urine samples obviously had semen in it, because this particular boy had just masturbated before he came into the waiting room. Sorry, that didn't quite come out as it was meant to. So, and for me, it was just like, whoa, I don't know what this is. And then I was called into the doctor's office, told to drop my pants and to cough. And he then said, well, it's all there, but it's a bit small. And to me, that just shattered my body confidence in a moment. And even now, I find it very difficult to talk about. So why I'm doing this, I have no idea. Eventually, I did go through puberty. Yay! But that brought on another problem, an issue, which was my first wet dream was about a boy. And it scared the crap out of me, because I knew that I wasn't in an environment where that was acceptable. I had no support. So the only thing that I could do was to bury it deep, and bury it so that I could pretend that it didn't exist in me, so that I could pretend to others that it didn't exist. And so I built a persona, a Mr. Normal persona, that was pretended to be straight, but basically just didn't talk about sex, didn't acknowledge sexuality, and just was designed to get through what I had to get through. The bullying subsided after a while because I learned to bully myself and to internalize it, so that others didn't need to do it for them. They could see that, I knew I was fat, I hated my body, I hated my small penis, and that was just, all I could do was just produce a persona that could try and cover those insecurities. And so when I got to the end of school, I just carried on with that persona. I didn't know what else to do and followed the path of what Mr. Normal would do. So off I went to medical school. Yay! And then into medical training and all the bits. So by the time I was in my late 20s, I really had no idea who I was. I had no idea, I had very few friends. I hadn't had a strong romantic relationship at all in my life, and was feeling very dissatisfied and at times suicidal. Thankfully, I connected with a few people, with a few doctors at conferences, and started to explore who I was sexually with others, and then started to sort of appreciate and to recognize that I was gay. So by the time at the sort of 30th, I came out to my family and my friends, and it was messy. We would all love it to be a lovely, beautiful story, but it wasn't. It was messy. My mother in particular found it very, very difficult to take in and to acknowledge and to really hear what I was trying to say. So, in some respects, the coming out, for me, I think sometimes we feel it can be a fairy tale. You come out and your problems are solved. Your insecurities are gone. You know who you are. Everyone, there was a sense of more self-acceptance from it. And yeah, I found a husband and we spent many years together. But actually, I didn't know who I was. And those actions were still trying to cover that. And still trying to present Mr. Normal. And so after a while, I recognized that actually I needed to do the work and actually find out who I was, rather than who Mr. Normal was. And that sort of quest has taken 15 years, and I have done some slightly crazy things in those 15 years, which have helped. So one of them is, you can probably see bits of it. You will see more bits of it later. But not quite all of it. I have a full body tattoo. And that in itself was an amazing experience over sort of 3.5 years. Initially, the sort of standing in front of a mirror for 4 hours while somebody draws on your back means that you have the time and space to actually look at yourself and to look at your body and to start forming sort of acceptance through that. Also, for me, the process of tattooing was about saying, this is my body. This is who I am to the world, and to actually express that. And curiously, the work with the tattoo artist was something that I didn't anticipate, was the way that the two of us actually communicated, and when I would describe things, he would pick up on them, but not in the moment. And so several months later, when he was drawing something, he said, oh yeah, well you talked about that. And I went, did I? I don't remember doing it. And was able to pick up. And so the tattoo for me really does present a lot of who I am and an expression of that. And the other bit of it was having my penis tattooed. I did say I do things that some of us probably wouldn't do. And that was to integrate it and to actually accept it as part of me and to acknowledge that actually I'm made how I am, and that is who I am. Some of the other aspects of things that I've done quite a lot of shamanic work, which is deep spiritual work, including things like digging my own grave and spending the night buried in it. Curiously, again, a very deep experience of actually meeting oneself and meeting one's fears in that process. And the other thing is also therapy, and lots of therapy and spending the time unpicking who is me, who is Mr. Normal, and also the work of accepting that Mr. Normal was my creation and accepting that that's what I needed to do to survive. And actually that was a wonderful thing that I did, because survival is the greatest gift. So for me, change has happened, but so fucking slowly. And it is one of the hardest things to accept on this sort of journey, is that it's slow, there's a lot of pain, and actually at times you really do have to go into that pain to understand it and to actually build a different life based on acceptance of that pain. And when I look at where I am today, I can see a lot of change. There is still inside me the ballerina who wants to effortlessly dance across the stage and have you all go, oh wow, that was amazing. When actually I have a body that's very rigid and very stiff because it still holds a lot of the fear and the shame within it. So my final few words really are just a reflection of the tough road that it has been, but also that I'm clear that there hasn't been for me an alternative. That all the time I've known that the way to work on my unhappiness is to go down this road. And for me, therefore, it's about acceptance. It's about the fact that acceptance is love. And so I love myself. I accept myself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.